It's draft day, and if you know one thing about me, I only ever win Alabama football drafts. Welcome to Beat Everyone. I'm Ben Flanagan, and yes, we're about to embark on maybe our most ambitious Beat Everyone draft yet. We've done one on Alabama players in the NFL. We've done one on Tuscaloosa restaurants, but now it's time for something a little more all-encompassing, something that you will no doubt roast us for when you hear all of our picks. We haven't seen him in a while. Our friend Beat Everyone producer Matt Scalici is with us. Hey, Matt, welcome back.
What's up, Ben?
Good to see you as always. And you already follow him at the Real Cruz Ox. He's always casually thinking about some incredible Alabama football play and sharing it online. It's not that serious, as he likes to say. It's Cruz Oxenreider. Welcome back, man.
Well, thanks for having me. Excited to be back.
Big fans of yours, you know that. So, guys, this draft is interesting. It covers a lot of ground, but it's basically what we're calling the ultimate Alabama football draft. And it really boils down to this. From the fans' point of view, what is the ultimate Alabama football experience? What is representative of your feeling, your memories? What would you show and tell aliens if they flew down and asked you, what is Alabama football, right? So your picks here can be your favorite things. They can be what you think are the best per category. They can be extremely personal picks because they are your picks and it reflects your relationship to Alabama football. But in the end, we're going to be asking the audience who won this draft. So, Cruz, I want to ask you real quick to set the table here. What is your relationship to Alabama football? How would you describe it?
I would say it's very give and take. I feel like I am someone who has very vast knowledge of the game, but at the same time, I try and make my content for everybody, even the people who know X's and O's and the everyday casual fan. So I feel like I have a really good relationship with Alabama football. I feel like a lot of the players and the coaches and personnel follow me. So I don't know if that's just them keeping tabs on me or if they're like secretly kind of relating to everything I say. So I feel like I'm an every person's kind of follow. If you like anything Alabama athletics.
For sure, and they should be following you because the plays that you share, they're so awesome, and you get to relive them. And they weren't even that long ago, but, like, when you look back at, like, the number, the year that you're sharing, it's like, good God, that's, like, 20 years ago at this
I
point, so
know.
it's always fun to relive. And, Matt, what about you? How would you describe your relationship to Alabama football?
You know, Ben, I've for our video viewers can tell, I have some gray in my beard these days. My hairline is further back than it used to be. I'm getting up there, and I used to think of myself as, kind of the young, fresh perspective covering Alabama football, and those days are long gone. I'm afraid now that I must go into the category of the keeper of the ancient texts, and I would say what my relationship is now, my function in the fan base is when Cruz posts those videos of plays and games, every single one of them, I could sit there and talk about it for an hour like an old man on a rocking chair and tell you all of this context and who was this guy and why was this an important player? Why did this mean so much when this happened? That kind of stuff is still kicking around in my brain. And I would say, pre 2020, I think a lot of that stuff is just firmly entrenched in my brain forever.
Yeah, the gray hairs and the receding hairline, Matt, it's probably all just from the DeBoer era, isn't it? Just from the last couple of
Yeah,
seasons.
I loo I looked like I looked like Tom Cruise from Cocktail before DeBoer got hired.
Yeah, you look like one of the Abbey Road Beatles during the Nick Saban, era. Yeah, look, I mean, same here, like, I grew up blocks from Bryant-Denny Stadium, spent my whole childhood, high school years just blocks away, and then obviously, went to college at University of Alabama, and all 4 years, the Shula tenure were my 4 years in college, and then Matt and I have been fortunate, in our professional lives to be able to cover the Saban era, all 17 years of that pretty much, the second golden era of Alabama football, and so it's just been very close to all of us, and so I think that we all kind of have managed to retain different kinds of, but kind of these encyclopedic knowledge of Alabama football. And there are people out there who know way more than us, whether it's about ball itself or about the program or the history. And like, we'll try to go back as far as we can with this, but we think we know our stuff, and you'll prove us wrong when you hear our picks. But here are the categories we're going to be picking from. Okay, here we'll be drafting from these categories: head coach, assistant coach, quarterback, offensive player, defensive player, game, play, villain, tradition, song, and game you want back. So, a lot of categories, and we're going to try to move through them quickly. Like I said, we want to be all encompassing. The rules here, this is going to be a snake draft. So, it's going to go 1, 2, 3, 3, 2, 1, 1, 2, 3, and so on. Everybody out there knows what a snake draft is. You can choose from any category at any
Whoa.
point in the draft, right? So, we're not going to go in order. So, we're just going to fill out our roster. Category order doesn't matter. Fill it out
And
however
Ben,
you
are
want.
you the keeper of the draft
Yes,
sheet
I will
here
keep.
as we
I will
go?
keep it. Yeah.
Okay.
So a third party whom I do not trust has selected or put our names in a randomizer. So I didn't pick, and none of us here picked the order of this draft. Here's how it's going to go. Going first is Matt. Going second, congrats, Matt. Going second is Cruz, and going third is me, Ben. So
I have to deny any allegations that the envelope was stuck in the freezer before this lottery happened.
I'm sorry, Cruz. I mean, you're our guest. I would have had you go first, but like we have to be objective and impartial here.
It's actually I'm kind of okay with this because now I can arrange my strategy a little bit. I was actually projecting myself to go last in
Oh,
this, so this actually kind of works out a little bit better.
we treat you better than that around here. All right, we know the order, we know the rules, we know the categories. Matt, you get the first pick.
Nick Saban. Head coach. Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
fair enough. Hey, Matt, why did you pick Nick Saban?
Look, they ain't making any more Nick Sabans. I think that much is clear at this point. We don't have to wait too long to figure that out. He's arguably the single most important figure in the history of college football, but certainly in the modern era of college football.
Okay.
All right.
Cruz, does that screw up your draft board? I mean,
No, because I knew the moment I heard 2, I know exactly where I'm going. I'm going Bear Bryant. I have to. I'm going the second greatest college football coach of all time.
Good luck, Ben.
Yeah, so I mean, that was a no-brainer on that one. Once if he would have passed on Nick Saban, I think that he would have automatically been disqualified from any list.
okay, so that leaves me with a handful of options, and that obviously means I'm not going to pick from coach and with my first pick here in the first round. I think I'm going to go quarterback with my first pick, and I'm going to go. This is tough, but I think that this guy is probably the best quarterback in Alabama history. Cruz, I feel like you might agree with me here. I'm going to go Tua Tagovailoa with my quarterback
Whoa.
pick. I think
I would-
Tua, like people
I
forget.
don't agree with you
about
on that
Tua.
one, but he's in my top 3, but he's not my number 1.
Whoa. Okay. All right. Well, you made me feel like a jerk. All right.
But
Well,
you
I get another pick. I get another pick here. So I'm going to go. I think I'm going to go with offensive player. No, I'm going to go defensive player, and I'm going to go Derek Thomas.
Oh God, that's where I was going.
Well done.
Yeah. It's got to be Derek
That's
Thomas.
Ball
Again, like,
knower.
we're like people will always accuse us with the show of being like Saban babies. We don't reach
Mhm.
far enough back into Alabama history. And like I said, we're going to try it a little differently. It's obviously fresh in our minds. There's a lot of recency bias. But look, at AL.com, we had a poll, an audience poll for people to tell us who's the greatest Alabama player of all time. We had all these Saban players, but in the end, Derek Thomas won, and everybody knows why. So that's my pick there. So I'm going to a quarterback, Derek Thomas, defensive player. It goes back to Cruz.
God. All right, you took Derek Thomas for me. That was going to be mine. Now I'm going to readjust. I'm actually going to say quarterback and assistant coach. I'm going to go offensive player. I'm going to go the most important offensive player in the Saban era. Give me Julio Jones.
Whoa,
The guy who started it all.
Great pick.
The guy who started it all. The reason why the dynasty became and then the recruiting base came, it was between him and a few other guys, but he is the catalyst of what the Saban era was built off of starting in 2008. So I'm going the most important offensive player in Julio Jones.
He wasn't even on my board, Cruz. So
That's fine. But you got to realize I'm playing the fans. So like fans will look at that and be like, "Oh, Cruz got Julio."
there's
So
more to there's even
it's
more to his career,
yeah,
obviously, than his production as a
yeah.
wide receiver. He is so
Ex-
symbolic of
mhm.
of everything that was right about the Saban era as a winner, competitor, team guy, et cetera, et cetera. We don't have to harp on it, but it's a great pick. Julio Jones is the man. All right. Let's go to Matt. You got two here.
I'm continuing to not build my player roster yet, and I'm gonna go ahead and fill my assistant coaching spot with Kirby Smart,
All
fellow
right.
multiple national championship winner, an instrumental part of, I would say, the most dominant era of Alabama football. I need him on the staff.
Cruz, what do you think of him as the first assistant coach off the board? Is Kirby the man?
It's the right answer. It's basically having a second national championship winning head coach on your roster. I mean,
Yeah.
that's a no brainer there.
I think so. I want to kind of try to reach into the bag a little bit with my pick, but I also don't want to coincide with my head coach too much. I want a little contrast in eras. All right, Matt, you get another pick here. Good one there.
My next one, I'm going quarterback. I got to get all the what I would view as the most important picks out of the way. I'm going with the only Heisman winning quarterback in Alabama history, Bryce Young.
Yeah, I think that on paper, in like you're picking with your brain, it's the right pick, right? Like statistically,
Eh,
won the Heisman, went to a national championship, didn't
Number one
win a
draft
national
pick.
championship. He did as a backup, but I look, Bryce Young's great. Number one
I'm
overall
I,
draft pick.
I'm also I look I'm also frankly I'm thinking about all of our social media commenters, and I know they're not going to look all the way down the list, and they're gonna look at the top 3 spots on our board, and they're gonna say Scalici nailed it.
I don't know about that. Let me just ask Cruz here. I don't know if you're going to pick quarterback with your next pick, but Cruz, who's the better quarterback, Tua or Bryce? Who would you, if game on the line, you get one game, Bryce or Tua? Who is it?
What Tua do I get though? That's the real question.
Tua at his
Ah,
best. Both of them at their best.
If you give me 2018 Tua before the injury, I'm taking him every day.
There you go.
Every day. But you guys actually just fell right into what I wanted to do strategy wise. You guys got the two obvious picks out of the way of quarterback, and you already know who I'm going to take as my quarterback, and now I get to just sit back and I get to snipe some of these other categories. I can take my time with my other quarterbacks now.
Oh,
So
interesting.
with that, I'm going to take arguably the best play in Alabama football history in 2nd and 26. I'm
Ooh,
taking that. So you gave
brutal.
me arguably
I mean,
the
there's
national championship winning play. That is
you
there's some great play.
absolutely you
Yeah,
got the best in that category without question, I think.
yeah. And that just fell to me. And then now it's like, okay, I'm looking uh with my strategy now, and I'm feeling pretty good right now about the list. So, maybe the Julio thing threw a wrench in for you guys. He caught you off guard. Now I'm thinking I'm playing the list right now.
No, you did
He
me
pa-
you did me a big favor with Julio. I'll be honest with you. I mean,
he panicked us.
yeah. No, but 2nd and 26 is huge. Like we talked to Nick Kelly on a recent episode. We determined what's the best Alabama play of all time, and 2nd and 26. To me, it's it. It's the best play. It's the best play in the history of college football, not just Alabama football. So to me, that's the number one overall pick. Now I get two picks here. I'm going to stick with the main categories that we got to fill out. So I think assistant coach is one of those, and I think offensive player is the other. So offensive player, I just think historically what the person did, won a Heisman, set all these records, was the greatest in the history at their position in college football ever. When you put up numbers like they did and you are making history like they did, a national champion twice over was the reason they won the national championship twice. Devontae Smith is the pick. He's got to be. I mean, there might be better, like people might think that there are better NFL receivers who played at Alabama than Devontae Smith, but is there a better college, a better Alabama wide receiver than Devontae Smith, or better offensive player than Devontae Smith? No, I don't think so. So I'm picking him for my offensive player. And assistant coach, this is tough. I'm really tempted to go with a classic defensive coordinator, but I'm not going to do that at this point. I think it comes. I'm going to take Lane Kiffin. I'm going to do
I
it.
knew it.
I'm
I
going to
knew
take
it.
Lane Kiffin. I have to. Three.
Suckered again by Lane Kiffin.
No, but at Alabama, he is 3 for 3 in terms of making the playoff, winning an SEC championship, coached a Heisman winner, Heisman finalists, won a national championship. I mean, like, changed Alabama forever, and Alabama as an offensive identity and superpower under Nick Saban. His best years were arguably at Alabama. The best possible version of Lane Kiffin was at Alabama. So going Lane Kiffin, assistant coach. So I feel good. Devontae Smith, Lane Kiffin, I'm good to go. All right, it goes back to Cruz.
I'll give you props on that one. And thank you for saving another offensive coordinator that I wanted who was better than Lane Kiffin. I'm gonna go. Man, I got some good ones I can hit right here. But you know what? I'm gonna do arguably the best tradition in college football and do Dixieland Delight.
Whoa.
I think that is hands down. People will talk about, neck in or Sandman, which funny enough, I just posted this graphic today on my Twitter, the keep 3, cut 9 traditions of college football. So go check that out on my Twitter. But it is, I had some really good ones on there. You can make some cases in the SEC. There's some great ones, but there is we see that video of the 2014 Dixieland Delight. Yeah, like multiple times a year, and every time I watch it, it gives me goosebumps. I was a student there, arguably one of the best Iron Bowls ever played in 2014. It was so good it got banned for 4 years. So give me Dixieland Delight.
Wait, so is this tradition or song?
Well, actually that's a good question, because it's technically Dixieland Delight. It's both. So should we clarify that?
I think if you pick it, I think like with the players, if you pick it, it's off the board for all categories.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna take tradition. I'm gonna take tradition.
Okay. All right.
I think that's valid. I think it's a valid pick.
All right, let's go back to Matt.
Guys, somehow you have allowed Derrick freaking Henry to fall to me for best offensive player. I know, Ben, when you started saying the best player at his position in college football, I got a little tight for a second because I thought, oh no, he's picking Derrick Henry. And I do agree with your assessment of Devontae Smith. Between the two of them, I honestly think I'd rather have Henry, because look, this is an embarrassment of riches we're talking about here. But I don't know that I've ever seen an individual player take over a game the way that Derrick Henry could. I think he was one of the few players in college football that there was truly not really an answer for on the offensive side of the ball. And he's he's still today. We're talking about a guy who's played his last snap at Alabama 11 years ago. And the guy is still a major force to be reckoned with in the NFL today.
Nobody could take over a game like him. Look, Devontae Smith, what do you have? 250 yards in the first half and 3 touchdowns, and then
yeah, he's good.
And got hurt, and he won the game. Okay, what? Look, I'm a Derrick Henry guy, and he was on my board, and I thought about that. But come on, you guys are disparaging the name.
I'm just saying Devontae Smith doesn't go to Alabama without Julio Jones. Setting the standard.
I think you might be right there.
That's fine. Does that make okay? That's fine. Like, does that make him?
Nobody had to throw the ball to Derrick Henry, and in fact,
Jake Coker had
don't talk bad about Jake Coker. That's a 2-5-1 boy.
No disrespect to Jake Coker.
Coker had to hand him the ball 46 times in that Iron Bowl in 2015. So give me a break. And Lane Kiffin, my offensive coordinator, had to call those plays. Matt,
he did.
Yeah, after Nick Saban sat him down and yelled at him the year before for not handing the ball. I still think about the Sugar Bowl. That's all he had to do was hand the ball off.
Yeah,
so
your boy wanted. He was itching to run more end arounds with Amari Cooper while Derrick Henry was sitting on the bench.
It's like, no, just another Christian Jones play instead of giving it to Derrick Henry for 50-yard screen pass or something.
Yeah.
Well, I understand. All right, Matt, you get another pick here, don't you?
I get another pick. I'm going. I'm looking at this category of villain here, and I really like it. And I think I have to say the ultimate Bama villain, if we're having to pick an individual person rather than a team, as I assume, right?
It's up to you. It could be an entity. It could be a team. It
Oh,
could be it
well
could be
oh, well,
a
then you've made my choice even easier
okay.
because I am going with the Auburn Tigers. I'm not gonna sit here and pretend that I'm not gonna do that bit we all like to do where we say Auburn's actually the second biggest rival for Alabama. It's Auburn. We all know you're all scared on odd numbered years when Alabama has to play in Jordan-Hare Stadium. You should be. They think about nothing but beating Alabama. It is an imagine if you personally knew there was another person out there who spent 365 days a year doing nothing but thinking about ruining your life. Imagine how nervous that would make you to know that existed. That's Auburn.
Well,
Uh,
we do the bit, right, of, like, the second biggest rival because they're the biggest rival, right? Like, to get
Yeah,
under their
exactly.
skin and make them have even more of an inferiority complex. It's a great pick. They're the ultimate villain. I think there are, like, individuals within Auburn that you could definitely go with, but just as
Probably.
they're like Spectre in the James Bond world, right? Like, you can just look at them as just, like, like, superpower conglomerate, and they're the foil to
And
Alabama.
they're always the bad guy. Even when they suck, they still are worth worrying about.
Absolutely, they proved that time and time again. Well done, Matt, that's a good pick. Back to Cruz.
so I'm gonna go to defensive player. I'm gonna take the second best defensive player in Alabama football history. The closest thing we'll ever see to Derek Thomas again is Will Anderson Jr. Uh,
Whoa.
the guy is an
It was
absolute
my
freak
pick.
up the edge.
A steal.
He made Pete Golding look like a confident defensive coordinator for years. Even when he tried to drop him back into
I
coverage,
was gonna say, did
to
he?
get pressure. I mean, Will Anderson is the second coming of Derek Thomas at Bama. I don't think Derek Thomas was the clear obvious number one in that one. But if you're looking also at just a skill set, what they did in college, I mean, he should have been a Heisman Trophy finalist over Aiden Hutchinson in 2021. And then what he's doing right now in the NFL is nothing short of incredible. So I mean, I got to go him. It seems like I wanted to get him before Matt stole him because I felt like it was coming, and I was just like, I wonder how long I can go without getting him. But I'm taking Will.
A great yeah, you absolutely did steal him. That was my pick, so I'm scrambling over here now.
I think I wanna go tradition here, and, Matt kinda stole my thunder a little bit with tradition, or I'm sorry, with his villain pick, because I was gonna go Iron Bowl with tradition, just like the Iron Bowl itself. I mean, like, something I would say we look forward to every year, but honestly, like, I think it's probably bad for us and it's bad for the state. It's something we all dread every year because, like, no matter how hopped up and hyped Auburn gets and how much they do convince themselves they're gonna win, whether it's fans, the coaches, the players, because that's something that I actually admire about Auburn is that they know they're gonna beat Alabama even if they don't, and Alabama just doesn't have that component, and they just dread it all year, but it just makes enemies out of us, and so I guess I can't pick that necessarily just because of how negative it is. So I think I'm gonna
I'm gonna
go
let you call your own foul here. It's not on me.
well, that's okay. All right, well, tradition I'm gonna go Victory Cigars. The Victory Cigars
Mm.
after the Tennessee game, it to me, like, nothing brings me and I don't even smoke cigars, at AL.com, oftentimes, like, when we would, after Alabama won the game for 16 straight years, I think it was 15 or 16 straight years in the Saban era, we would ask people, "Send us your Victory Cigars. We wanna share your photos," and we would get inundated with almost thousands of photos every single year. People in the Alabama fan base love to beat Tennessee. They love to light up as soon as they know that they can, and there's a mushroom cloud hanging over Bryant-Denny Stadium or Neyland Stadium as soon as like, not even when the clock hits 0. They light
Oh
up
yeah.
way too early sometimes when the game's not yet decided, but they just can't help themselves. They love it so much. So, Victory Cigars is one of my favorite traditions. I'm gonna pick it here. So that I get another pick, and I get play. I'm gonna go play here because you took the best play off of the board, and I'm gonna reach back into the Stallings era, and I'm gonna pick a play that didn't even count. I'm going George Teague running down
Oh,
Miami
Very
in the
nice.
Sugar
that's a
Bowl.
good one.
It's iconic, and who cares if it didn't count? It was still indicative of what that game was, the blowout that it turned out to be. The fact that Alabama could just literally chase down the number 1 team, the people everybody thought was the prohibitive favorite to dominate Alabama in New Orleans that night, but no, it won Alabama their 12th national championship. And George Teague's a legend for this, and everybody knows it. So that's my pick for play, George Teague. So goes back to you, Cruz.
I think what I'm gonna do here is I'm gonna go game you want back, and I think this is probably like the unanimous game that everyone wants back, and that's the kick six game,
Yeah.
2013. That game changed so many things in college football. It changed a possible three-peat. It erased, that would have erased one of the, you can argue, one of the best plays in college football history. Adrian McCarron goes out a three-time national champion. They go against Florida State. They go for another SEC title. And I feel like that changes a lot of the trajectory of the rest of how Saban's career would have been, because at that point, he would have won 3 in a row. First time that would have been done since, I believe, Minnesota back in the day. And I think that play just haunts us. And it's been, 10 plus years now. I mean, 4th and 31 kind of made up for it on the anniversary, but I mean, it's still one of those plays we see dozens and dozens of times a year. And it didn't even matter. They end up blowing a 24-3 lead in Natty to Florida State. I mean, I genuinely think we would have boat raced Florida State. I don't think that game would have been close. I'm not saying it would have been Notre Dame bad the year before, but I think that would have, AJ would have gone out as arguably the most decorated college football quarterback ever, with three straight national champions, a Maxwell. I know he was up for the Heisman that year, and I know he came in second. I don't know if he would have won over Jameis, but I think if he would have got that win and that SEC championship, there might have been a shot he could have got it. And then it just kind of changes the rivalry a little bit. Gus Malzahn became, you can argue with the Auburn pick, which I'm not going to go that way, but you can argue he was the biggest villain for a while. So I think that's the game that every single person wants back. I know a lot of people will probably say Clemson in 2016, but I genuinely think we were better than that Auburn team, 7 days a week and twice on Saturdays. And it took a miracle to win.
It's a great pick, Cruz. I totally agree with you. I mean, there are so many like woulda, coulda, shoulda, what if moments from that game going forward on 4th and 1. Cade Foster obviously missing several kicks. I mean, you had Derrick Henry on the roster too, but that AJ McCarron to Amari Cooper throwing it from the back of the end zone for a 99-yard go-ahead touchdown. It's one of the greatest plays I've ever seen. I was in the building for the kick six, the only game I've ever seen inside Jordan-Hare Stadium. That place cleared out so fast. It was unbelievable. The quickest I've ever left a stadium, because all the Auburn fans were already on the field by the time we started going down the steps. But I think we're going back to Matt here.
Now, you guys have both picked your defensive player already, right? So there's no urgency for me there right now.
Nope. That's right.
I am going to jump on play firstly here, which, Ben, you just name checked my pick, which is 4th and 31, Gravedigger. I think, did it lead to a national championship? No. Is it one of the most humiliating ways to defeat your rival that we've ever seen in college football? Yes. I agree that the kick six will always, I think, have a different effect than maybe any other play, just because of how much it got talked about and how high the stakes were for a national championship. But man, in terms of the actual play, 4th and 31 is so funny and so unlikely and so improbable. If you had turned off the TV before it happened, no one would blame you. In fact, my sister, who was at the game with her son, left the stadium before the play happened.
No.
They found out that it happened by walking past tailgate tents of Auburn fans who were suddenly looking really sad. She's going like, why aren't these people celebrating? And that's how she found out that it happened. So it is what it is. It has to be the unlikeliest play in Alabama football history. Just a total coin flip of a play, and it came up Alabama's way, and it hurt the other team so bad. One of the best collections of crowd reaction shots we've ever seen.
All right, that's a great pick, Matt. You get another one, don't you?
Yes, I do. And my next one is going to be for game, and I'm going with the 20. Well, I know they label these things differently. To me, this is the 2015 national championship game.
Mhm.
The Alabama versus Clemson won out of the title bouts. It's such an incredible back and forth game. You know, so many future NFL stars on the field in this game, and everybody was great at what they do specifically, including on Clemson's roster. It was such a perfect synthesis of like that time of college football, and has another, I would say, maybe nominee for best play.
Mhm.
I mean, really multiple
Couple.
nominees. But yeah, just an exciting all the way through back and forth game. Great players making great plays, and ultimately ending with the team that won. It came down to, I would say, a coach going a little bit outside of his comfort zone and doing something that surprised everybody. Um, and I think it's a highlight of Saban's career for sure.
It's like one of the great just 12-round prize fights in college football history. Cruz, go for it.
Man, that was gonna be mine. That was my last game as a student too. So that one,
Oh
I
wow.
wanted. Yeah, that was actually gonna be my next pick. But I'm gonna go. I'm gonna go my second game, and this one I feel like gets a lot of love. I consider the best SEC championship of all time. You can argue it was the real national championship game this year.
Mhm.
It was the 2012 Alabama Georgia SEC championship game. Um, you talk about just two heavyweight fights. That was a playoff game before the playoffs. It really was. It
Yep.
was 2 versus 3. Winner was going to go do whatever they wanted to Miami. I think Georgia would have done the exact same thing to Miami with Aaron
To Notre
Murray.
Dame in Miami, you
Yes,
mean?
exactly.
Yeah.
They would have dominated. And I think that game had everything you wanted. You had star power. You had Mark Richt versus Nick Saban. You had a fan base in Georgia that hadn't won at that time. I believe it was 30. It was 30 years at that point. And then you had star power. You had comebacks. You had epic plays. I mean, Eddie Lacy, T.J. Yeldon, Todd Gurley. They're just running over everybody. And then that throw that just I might be casually thinking about it today when I post it. AJ McCarron hitting Amari Cooper in just perfect stride. And then the play that, the bat down by CJ Mosley. What the most important play of that game was the tip pass by CJ, catching it in bounds. And then you just knew at that moment, like I remember we left the fraternity house, we ran straight to the strip and we partied the entire night because we knew we were going to do unspeakable things to Notre Dame a month later. And we did. And so personally, and I think fan wise, I feel like there are so many good picks you can make for that, but I think that was arguably the best SEC championship game of all time, and you can make a case it's a top 10 college football game of all time.
Was that also the game where Aaron Murray got
Yes.
crackback
By
blocked right before
Preston
halftime?
Dial, yeah.
Quentin Dial. Yeah.
Quentin Dial, yes, there you go.
Yeah. Can you imagine in 2026 if that happens, like the memes that creates? Like, I mean,
Yeah.
they were funny back then, but like they would have just been everywhere.
You still see it. The shot that you see is actually
Yeah.
not the hit. It's the like millisecond before contact where you can see the Aaron Murray's
His
eyes
Yeah.
looking sideways, knowing that it's about to come. So, I mean, thus proving that he was not defenseless, by the way. He did see it coming, just very late.
Yeah, it's like the moment before my boss calls on me in a Zoom meeting or something like that. You could go a lot of different directions with it. That's a great pick. You're right, and like both of you have taken number 1 and number 2, frankly, from my game board. So I'm really frustrated, but I'll come back to it. So I still have head coach, which is whatever. I still have game, and I still have song and villain. So I'm gonna go villain this time because I think like there's still some picks to be made here. I thought about going with Lane Kiffin for offensive or assistant and villain, but he's not really a villain to Alabama. He really hasn't been. Alabama's undefeated against him head to head, and I mean he was obviously great as the assistant coach, so it wouldn't make any sense to pick him as a villain. I mean he's a hero in the eyes of Alabama fans.
I love it.
I'm gonna go. Yeah, I mean why not? So I'm going to make a pick that I don't think anybody else would. Matt already picked Auburn, so I'm going to take my individual Auburn people away. I'm going to go Dabo Swinney as
Yeah.
villain for Alabama because look, I mean, like, unfortunate credit where it's due. He beat Alabama twice when it mattered most. Like, he beat him in national championship games. He head to head against Nick Saban. Everybody would say Nick Saban, when he has this much time to prepare, is unbeatable, et cetera. So he crushed him in the 2019 college football playoff game, a game that is still inexplicable to me. I don't understand how Alabama got beat that badly. I know that there are conspiracy theories out there like stealing signs, et cetera. It doesn't matter. They did it. They beat Alabama by 28 points. And Alabama was a juggernaut that year. The reason why I picked Tua as my quarterback in this draft, like, I couldn't believe it. If you go to that box score and read it and see who was on Alabama's roster, it makes no sense. So credit to him, credit to Brett Venables, yes. But here's the reason he's a villain. He played at Alabama, and he did this to Alabama. He wants to be the Alabama coach. Obviously, like, I think it's been clear to a lot of people that ultimately Dabo Swinney wanted that job, and he did that to Alabama. So, I guess good on him for doing it. But I mean, the fact that it's one of your own sons and he beats you the way that he did twice makes him a villain, and created one of the great college football rivalries of all time with Clemson, too. He did it with Clemson. So I got to pick Dabo. What are your thoughts on Dabo, Cruz?
I was so set on him being the guy to come in after Saban, after Kirby decided to go to Georgia, which I'll never blame Kirby for taking that job. Like, like people will be like, "Oh, he's a villain." No, he played there. It's his dream job. Like, I totally understand why he left. But I was set on Dabo, and then I realized Dabo can only win with generational talent at quarterback in Deshaun Watson, Trevor Lawrence. Look, next year he had DJ Uiagalelei, who was high school ranked number 1 or 2 with Bryce Young, and just imploded and really hasn't done much since. I know he went to the playoffs, but that was on a technicality and a fluke. And they got both. Yeah, and so I think this is probably honestly going to be Dabo's last year. He had national championship expectations last year with Kate Klubnik, and I drank the Kool-Aid. I thought that defense was going to be an elite defense, NFL style defense, and I think they lost their first 2 out of 3 games in September, and they were out of the playoff hunt before October. So I drank the Kool-Aid. I was a sucker.
Seems like a villain too, in the sense that he became so publicly anti-portal and NIL and like all of these things that are modernizing the game, and just became the face of failing to evolve.
He became a parody of himself, and I think like that partly is frustrating too, because Dabo defeated himself in a way. Like you never really got the better of him in the end. Like he's the only thing that took him down was his own hubris, or whatever you want to call it.
I get one more pick here, and bear with me, okay? Because I'm going to reach back into my college years. I mentioned to you that I was there for all 4 years of Shula's tenure as the head coach. And most people would say you don't want any of those games back, because Shula's failure as a head coach led to Nick Saban and led to 17 straight years of golden era for Alabama. And I'm not saying that, right? Like, as somebody who loved covering it, watching it, et cetera, everything happened like it was supposed to happen. But just as a genuine curiosity, a big what if, I think if Alabama beats LSU in 2005, when they're undefeated, and Jamarcus Russell finds Dwayne Bowe in overtime, that game goes to overtime, 10-10. Alabama's up 10-0 at halftime. LSU comes back. They go to overtime. Alabama kicks a field goal, go up 3. All they have to do is stop them. But no, they score a touchdown. They win. And whatever, Alabama loses. And then the Shula experiment just kind of like flounders. After that, they lose to Auburn, honk if you sack Brody, et cetera, et cetera. But I think a lot of crazy stuff happens if Alabama beats LSU. And it's just a big what if in terms of, do they finish that season undefeated? What happens if they finish that season undefeated? Does Tim Tebow potentially come to Alabama? Because remember, Mike Shula was in the door with Tebow, and obviously Tebow was going to go to Florida no matter what. But I'm just saying, what if? What kind of recruiting does Mike Shula do if they go undefeated, and if they do well in the postseason? What happens? Does Nick Saban come to Alabama? Is Mike Shula better off in 2006 if they go undefeated in 2005, does Nick Saban never happen? Obviously, like, that's not a reason I want the game back, but having been there in the building, seeing Alabama being close to the like, at the precipice of being back again after the Florida game, obviously, they lose Prothro, and that's when I went back to. Obviously, we could talk injuries too, and he wasn't even there for that game. What if Prothro had been there for that game? A lot of what ifs we can go through. But 2005 LSU, to me, that game was cataclysmic in the sense that if Alabama wins that game, then maybe Nick Saban never happens. And so, again, not a reason I want it, but I am interested in the what if scenario, the sort of like crazy quantum leap, God knows what you want to call it, situation where college football is much different if that game goes a different way. I know I'm crazy for saying it.
Yeah, I mean that's a good pick. I mean, look, I worked for Tim for almost 2 years, and we've had this conversation before about him almost he was this close to going to Alabama, and it was just something. It was higher powers than what anyone else could have managed, and he was meant to be a Florida Gator, and it's just so hard for me to imagine him being an Alabama Crimson Tide quarterback, and I
Yeah.
don't know, and I genuinely don't think it would have gone the way that people think it would have gone. I genuinely just don't. I think the offensive system wouldn't have matched. I just don't think it just would have fit, and so. But that's a great what if, though. I think that's awesome. I think that's one of the biggest what ifs in college
You
football
don't
history.
think Dave Rader would have done as good a job as Dan Mullen did with Tim Tebow?
No, I genuinely don't.
That
Um,
may be the last job that Dave Rader had. I have not checked on him in a while.
oh
I
man.
just wanted to work in a Shula era pick, if I'm totally honest with you. All right, we go back to Cruz.
All right. So I still have assistant coach, quarterback, villain, and song. So you know what? I'm gonna go ahead and get my quarterback out of the way. The the second quarterback to ever go undefeated for Nick Saban in Alabama. Arguably one of the greatest quarterback college football seasons of all time. Undefeated national champion, Maxwell winner, Davey O'Brien winner, and just honestly a great story that we just don't see anymore in college football. Sticking it out, waiting your turn, and reaping the benefits. I'm going Mac Jones. Mac Jones
Great
all
pick.
day. Personal
Great
favorite
pick.
of mine. Good buddy of mine. And I think he's a fan favorite. I think when he first got to Alabama, he was a modern day Alex Moran from Blue Mountain State. He sat behind Jalen Hurts and Tua, waited his turn, and what did he do? He arguably had one of the greatest college football quarterback seasons we've ever seen. Granted, him and I genuinely think if Jalen Waddle doesn't get hurt against Tennessee, Mac wins the Heisman instead of Smitty. I think that too. What he was doing, I mean, that team was just so special that year was, and
Mhm.
the way he did it with all the conditions that everyone else had to go through. There was no home field advantages. There was no, um, there were just so many restrictions that everyone in college football had to go through, not just us or anybody else, regardless. But I think Mac is, when we think of Alabama football and, being in a place that you genuinely love and waited your turn and you did what he was supposed to do, that's where I go. So I'm very confident in taking that pick. I know Bryce and Tua are great players, but I don't think just because Bryce got a Heisman and then Tua has the moment, I think Mac has a better season in 2020 than those other two guys have.
Look, Mac was on my list. He's one of my favorite players, and what I think is really interesting about him is that he has kind of become a rule for some players, like a Ty Simpson, for instance. If you want to keep it with Alabama, they want to go in again the NIL, the transfer portal era. They want to go the Mac Jones route, right? And it was obviously different when he was at Alabama compared to what it's like now. But they want to wait their turn, bide their time, be the guy when they're supposed to be the guy, even if that means waiting until your junior or senior year as a redshirt player. So that's something that I think should be a part of his legacy. I thought it was ridiculous that he finished third in Heisman voting. He should have been second, if
Yeah.
not the winner. Frankly, like Mac Jones had a case to be the Heisman winner. It's an incredible pick, and he's one of the best quarterbacks ever. And yeah, I mean, Devontae Smith did have somebody throwing him the ball, and that was Mac Jones. And I love that scenario, that what if that you mentioned about Jalen Waddle. I've said it many times here,
Yep.
pound for pound. Jalen Waddle's one of my favorite players of all time. If that dude had been on that team all season, look out. Like that,
Yeah.
we would have seen numbers we have never seen. Matt, do you want to talk about Matt Jones at all?
I assume what you want me to do, Ben, is to own up to the fact that I was a doubter of Mac Jones going into the
Yes.
2020 season, which I was, and Mac 100% proved me wrong. And the play that I always think about with Mac Jones that makes it like you really don't hear any of the conversation of like Mac only had the season he had in 2020 because of the players that were around him. You don't really hear people say that about him. And it's because it's so obviously not true. The play that jumps to my mind about Mac is from the Iron Bowl in 2020. There is a play where I don't remember the exact route. I don't remember if it was kind of intended to be just a slant or he's like coming out of the slant and hitting his sort of downfield go part of the route. But Mac is being immediately blitzed after the snap. He has what feels like less than a full second from the snap to the ball coming out of his hands. And it is a touchdown. It is a play that requires such flawless execution and timing and your brain moving at a speed that is inconceivable to the rest of us to recognize everything that's happening. I've never seen another Alabama player operate like that. I mean, Steve Sarkisian was asking a lot of those guys, and they came through. And I don't think just plug any quarterback into that 2020 team and they do what they did. I think Mac was the perfect quarterback for that team.
I think about 2019 too, honestly, with Mac Jones and just being kind of reassured, like this dude is going to be sick as the starter. When he had to come in and start for Tua after he went down with the hip injury and started in the Arkansas game, and he had one of the most beautiful deep balls to Jerry Jeudy in that game, where it was just like, who is this guy? And then in the what was the Citrus Bowl that Alabama played in that game, where he made Jeudy a first like he basically improved Jerry Judy's draft stock almost single-handedly. Credit to Jerry Jeudy too, obviously. Can you imagine an entire season with those guys? But I mean, he just came in and proved that he is going to be the guy in 2020, and Lord knows he followed up with that. Matt, we all get them wrong sometimes.
Well, I mean, too, if you remember, there was a lot of talks of Ruggs coming back for his senior year too. He wanted to come back, and then they told him to like, you're probably going to be the first wide receiver drafted over like CD and Jerry. So, could you imagine you would have had Smitty, Waddle, Mechie, Slade, and Ruggs with Najee Harris, and then you add Billingsley, who kind of came into his own that year too with Miller Force. So, I mean, that would have been gross. That would have been arguably the most explosive offense of all time.
All right, we go back to Matt for 2 picks.
All right, so I've got 2 here and then 2 more, and I'm done, I believe.
Yep.
So, and I'm gonna make my defensive player my last pick for sure. Because I just want to go out on a high note here. But I think for game you want back, I'm surprised that nobody else has gone with this, because to me, this is arguably the most painful loss. But this is the 2010 Iron Bowl. The game that Alabama dominated in the first half, led, seemed to have Auburn's number, seemed to finally be the team that was going to shut down Cam Newton, and they blew it. To quote Robert De Niro from Copland, "You blew it." It just and it wasn't even all explicable plays. It wasn't all Auburn making great plays, although they did. Some of it's just like stupid bad luck stuff happened. The ball getting punched out of Mark Ingram's hands and rolling through the end zone. The ball could have bounced a million different ways, and it happened to go that way. It's just one that it's the definition to me of, if you played it again under the same conditions, it might not go the same way.
Yeah, that game, I was there. It was freezing that day in Tuscaloosa, and it seemed, with that 24-point lead, it seemed too good to be true when it was happening. When Alabama just marched down on their first possession, Mark Ingram has like a 10 or 11-yard touchdown run. Greg McElroy finds a wide open Julio Jones for like an 80-yard catch and run. Like all these things were happening against this undefeated Auburn team who were just world beaters that year, and Alabama just had them right where they wanted. Alabama didn't have anything to play for that year other than beating Auburn, and maybe
But it
maybe
meant
a
a
good
lot
bowl game.
because Auburn had not won a national
Yeah,
title, or hadn't even claimed one since the '50s, and Alabama had just gotten back up on their feet. It's hard to remember that there wasn't a sense that this was gonna just keep happening forever. Alabama was gonna keep winning national titles. They'd only won their first one, and they finally felt on top of the world, and now here comes Auburn to do it back to back and make it feel less special for Alabama. It felt desperate, and it felt like it needed to happen. Now, in retrospect, it's a great moment for Auburn, and they did get a championship out of it, but in retrospect, it was really a very isolated season. It didn't really have any implications beyond that. Cam Newton left, and everything seemed to leave with him, but in the moment, it felt like a colossally bad thing to happen to Alabama football, to lose that game and to let Auburn go on and win a national title.
if you hadn't picked Auburn for your villain, I probably would pick Cam Newton for my pick. I
Big
mean,
time,
like you
big
said,
time.
he was only there for one season, but look at what all he did in one
A
season.
a total boogeyman, absolutely.
Yeah. And people still call this the best individual college football season anybody's ever had. And Alabama had him right where they wanted him. They had Auburn right where they wanted them, a 24-point lead. They bottled him up, stuffed him like nobody else had that year, and they absolutely blew it. He's able to lead a historic comeback, beat his biggest rival on the road, go to the SEC championship, win the national championship, win the Heisman, got everything that Auburn wanted, that he wanted, et cetera. And he did it with a smile on his face the entire time. And he'll always have that on Alabama. So you're right. Boogeyman, villain, whatever you want to call him, but they get those bragging rights set. I don't like this category. Let's move on.
All right, my next pick here, I'm going with song. This is gonna, this is not gonna help our allegations of being Saban babies here, but this is frankly a pretty old song at this point. I'm going with Thunderstruck, which is a song I will forever associate with Alabama football. It started, I think, in Nick Saban's first game is when this happened, if I'm not mistaken. That they just decided to make this big production out of the team walking out of the tunnel. It eventually turned into a camera following them through the tunnel that you'd see up on the screen, and you're getting this real-time feed of them walking out. I mean, it is people who are not Alabama fans will tell you, Alabama's walkout onto the field is goosebump inducing. It is spectacular. It's intimidating. And I think it's the perfect song for it. I think this, like, it's there's something ominous about it where you get the little chanting, the little and you got like a stomp element to it.
Yeah.
It's a perfect stadium song. It's high intensity, and I love that it kind of stays on until they come out onto the field for kickoff. Um, I I I have a strong memory, Ben, uh, of the football player Jimmy Johns on kick coverage team running out onto the field with Thunderstruck still playing with his arms out like he was an airplane, like he was a cruise missile about to be fired at the kick return team. It gets you exactly where you need to be emotionally to start a game.
It's incredible, and it's something like if I'm lucky enough to like go watch a game live, like it's something I look forward to. Maybe the thing I look forward to most about just sort of the atmosphere and the presentation inside Bryant-Denny Stadium.
You can't drop it. Kalen DeBoer and
He's
everyone
good
who
on
works
him.
for him,
It's made him look
you
good too.
cannot drop it.
It's
Yes.
it's made Kalen DeBoer look good too when he comes
Yeah,
out
he had one of his best moments as a coach with that walkout.
slapping the goalpost, but they gotta time it perfectly though. You
Yeah.
gotta time the song perfectly before the Yay Alabama $1 Million Band thing sneaks in there and kind of like kills the juice of Thunderstruck. But man, that place is just rocking and rolling when that song is going. So it's a great pick, man. I love it. It's an awesome tradition. They use it Walk of Champions too. So
To be clear, that's my pick for song, not tradition.
all right, we'll go to Cruz then.
Because I'm about to take your song, and I'm going Raymond James. And that's the song I'm going for. I'm going our victory
He
song.
stole my tradition
I
pick
I
for
did,
sure.
which I know, which if you I kind of did a little flip flop between Dixieland Delight and Ramashima. Look, that's what you play for, you stay for 4-4. Fans who come to Bryant Denny, or hell, even when we take over their stadium, they hate hearing that song because they know they just lost to us again. Um, it's some of the best memories I had was even in blowouts at Bryant Denny, or even going on the road, just taking it over. My favorite one of all time was probably Texas A&M 2014. Kind of a weird year. We just lost to Ole Miss, barely beat Arkansas on the road. A lot of people were picking us to lose to A&M, and we blasted them 59-0. And I just remember all the students stayed that day. And it was just one of the most fun Ramajamas of all time. Now, obviously, the national championship ones and SEC ones are incredible. The one we did this past year in Athens when we beat Georgia into their home winning streak, I was sitting right by the band. That one is unmatched too. But I gotta go. I gotta go. That everyone knows the words to it. You hate hearing it as an opposing fan, and honestly, you love singing it as an Alabama fan.
Cruz, I got to say you cheated a little bit. I didn't expect you to pick Dixieland Delight as your tradition, and now you've taken Rammer Jammer off the board too. It's pretty clever pick.
Diabolical, yeah.
Yeah, pretty clever pick
Definitely
by
a
you.
song.
All right, fine, whatever. Okay, so I'm stuck now with two categories. I've got do I have three? Yeah, I've got three. Yep, I'm gonna pick Yay Alabama. That's really all that's left. It's a little stuffy. It's a little old and traditional, but it's what's left on the board. All right, so that leaves game and head coach for me. I'll go with game, and my last pick will be head coach in just a little bit. But my game, I'm gonna pick a blowout. I'm not gonna pick a good game here. I'm just gonna pick what I consider the apex of the Nick Saban era, the Notre Dame national championship game, the BCS game played in 2013 for the 2012 season. Just as perfect as a game Alabama could have played to win it all. And even though they lost a game that year, to me, this is one of Nick Saban's most dominant teams. Just a force to be reckoned with. Perfect balance, a running machine behind a guy like Eddie Lacy, who's been back in the news lately, crazily enough, in a good way. And then, you had TJ Yeldon back there, but you had a great player like Amari Cooper as a true freshman, AJ McCarron, certainly at the pinnacle of his career before he was a Heisman finalist, as you mentioned earlier. But I mean, to me, the greatest moment potentially under Nick Saban is when AJ McCarron and Barrett Jones are arguing over getting the snap count right, and Barrett Jones shoves him when they're up by 28 points. I mean, these guys who were just trying to be perfect when the game is in hand at the highest possible level. And they just, there was so much hype going into this game. What was so satisfying was this narrative that Notre Dame was a team of destiny. It's just meant to be because they're Notre Dame. And everybody wants to see. And I agree, like when Notre Dame's good, it's good for college football. More people will tune in. But to get a helmet game like that, Alabama versus Notre Dame in the national championship, I'm not sure I thought that was going to happen or that I would see that in our lifetimes. So that was really cool. And for Alabama just to be as dominant as they were, extremely satisfying to watch. So that's my pick for game. Let's go back to Cruz.
I have villain and I have assistant coach. And I'm just going to go ahead and get the assistant coach out of the way. It's Steve Sarkisian. I think he's the best offensive coordinator Alabama's ever had. What she had to take over for Lane Kiffin for being a diva after the Washington game, leaving us high and dry the week before the game. And honestly, I know that some people are thinking that he didn't do a great job. I thought after Bo Scarborough broke his leg, I thought he did the best job he possibly could, still getting O.J. Howard wide open down the seams. And I thought he let us – I mean, that double pass after getting it on 4th and 1, I mean, as much as we love Jalen, we love Jalen Hurts. Jalen Hurts was seeing ghosts the majority of that night with that Clemson defensive line and that Clemson defense. I thought Steve Sarkisian did a great job, and then comes back 2019 and 2020, just put up video game numbers. I thought he did a fantastic job there. Turned Devontae Smith to a Heisman Trophy winner, Mac Jones into a Maxwell Award winner, Najee Harris into a Doak Walker winner. He made John Mechie a household name. I mean, he did a fantastic job. And look, there are talks about him taking over for Saban. He filled in for Alabama as a head coach for the Iron Bowl when Saban got COVID. I mean, he first game against your arch rival, against a coach who historically is giving you nightmares and Gus Malzahn, and he takes over and dominates. I mean, absolutely dominated the year after Auburn ended Alabama's slight playoff hopes after Tua got hurt, comes in, makes a statement, ends up getting himself the Texas job. So a one job resume got you, a blue blood coaching job. So it's hard for me not to go see Sarkisian. I thought about going Jeremy Pruitt because he does have, I think, the most fun Alabama defense of all time in 2016. But all those were Kirby's guys. Yeah. So it will be a cold day in hell before I ever give Bill O'Brien credit for anything. So Steve Sarkisian was a good choice for me.
You know that part in the movie Good Will Hunting when Matt Damon holds up the paper to Stellan Skarsgård, and he's like, "You know what this is? You think this is hard for me? This is a joke."
Yeah.
That's Steve Sarkisian as
Yes.
offensive coordinator, especially in 2020. He just made it look so effortless and so easy. He's playing chess, everybody else is playing checkers, and it was really fun to watch. He was on my board as well, as was Jeremy Pruitt, to be honest. So, Cruz, that's an awesome pick. Matt, these are your last two picks.
So, Ben, I have tradition remaining and I have defensive player remaining. Tradition, unfortunately, my top pick got taken here for sure. I'm going to go with actually a relatively new tradition in the history of Alabama football, but I'm going with the Walk of Champions. I think for a lot of fans, it's the best opportunity they'll ever get to see their favorite players up close in real life. I think for big games, particularly, you just get this absolute sea of humanity out in front of the stadium. And this was just a thing that didn't happen before they built that north end zone expansion. I mean, when I was in school, Ben, there was really nothing there. I think there was a hill with a fraternity house on it.
Yep.
And just kind of like your stand. I mean, it kind of looked old and run down around that side of the stadium. Kind of looked like Jordan Hare Stadium looks right now, honestly. But it's now they've built this and not just the actual sort of walk part of it, but the fact that they came up with all this stuff of a national champion gets this placed in the ground. An SEC champion gets like a sort of smaller tile placed in the ground. If you're a coach and you win a championship, they build a statue of you. Like there's all these, it became this kind of like monument to Alabama football. They built both an actual tradition that takes place before every game, but also there's this like place now that's built around it.
Yeah, there were horse carriages and newspaper boys back there too in that area too. They're handing out crimson whites. You're talking about our college days, like it's turn of the century. There's like a Ken Burns documentary, the way that you're talking about it.
Yeah, they called they called stadium dogs red hots back then.
That's right. Yep, you get a piece of tobacco to put on top of it too back then. All right, Matt, you have one more category.
Final pick is defensive player because you guys let me wait as long as I wanted on it. I'm going with Minkah Fitzpatrick.
Whoa.
I think there are maybe guys who have bigger stat lines, maybe who changed the way opponents played a little more. But to me, Minkah was, I think, the perfect example of a guy that played the position that Nick Saban was kind of a specialist in. He was a totally spectacular athlete that could have been in a lot of different spots on the field. And because of the way that Nick Saban liked to coach defense, that guy ended up as a safety. And I mean, he could do it all. Incredible tackler. You could send him on a blitz and make big plays in the backfield. If he ever got his hands on the ball, God help you, because he was going to do something incredible with it. And it was like from day one, this guy was clearly one of the best players on the field. I can remember as a freshman, him coming up with incredible plays. I believe it was a Georgia game where he had a blocked punt that he then also recovered for a touchdown. Just from day one, the guy was incredible, and all the way through the rest of his college career. And he's, I believe, a 5-time Pro Bowler as well. So it's continued on through his pro career. Just a perfect example of the kind of player that Nick Saban wished that he had 22 of on the field at all times.
He's one of the faces of that 2016 defense that had a million non-offensive touchdowns
Yeah.
in 2016, something I don't think we'll ever see again. I mean, he had one of my favorite plays ever at Arkansas where he intercepts the ball in the end
Yes.
zone, and Eddie Jackson, leads him out, and he goes for, like, 105 yards for a pick six. I mean, I call him Pick a Six Patrick for as many of those as he's had throughout his career, and I think Cruz has probably posted a handful
Yeah.
of, Mika Fitzpatrick videos over the years.
You could spend
It's
a
awesome,
week
dude.
doing
He's
that
great.
easily. Yeah.
Look,
Yeah,
I got a compilation of just defensive touchdowns from 2016 alone. That's 15 minutes. I mean, I
it's
think
ridiculous.
I think there was a stretch
That's
of game.
arguably I'm so
Yeah,
yeah, that could get flagged on TikTok for being too erotic.
honestly, it would be. I might just have to put viewer discretion advised when watching it. Um, No, Mika's a great pick, and I'm like, it's one of those things I wanted to pick him too because I got to see him my senior year come alive. Like the Georgia game, like we were there, like first time ever going to Athens, in a monsoon where a lot of people picked us to lose that game too, into the dynasty kind of thing, and he first time we hear about him, block punt, and then I think the next possession, pick six, Eddie Jackson. I mean, and then the A&M game, I mean, alone. I went down to Kyle Field for that one, and then he had two alone. It was so much fun.
Your last pick, Cruz.
So I've been going back and forth with what I want to do for the villain here, and I keep coming back to this one answer, and it needs a little bit of explanation. I'm gonna pick Alabama as the villain. I think that we're the biggest villain in college football. I
I
think we're the
respect this so much.
yeah. I think we are the biggest villain to ourselves as a fan base, of expectations that are unrealistic, we've changed the game in so many ways. We're the reason the BCS doesn't exist anymore. We're the reason that there's a 12-team playoff instead of a 14 playoff. There's a reason why there's revenue sharing now. There's a reason why, Dodge Chargers are now obsolete. They don't exist anymore. We are the reason why that, non-conference games are no longer a thing, because people got tired of scheduling us week one in a neutral site because we in their season before the season even started. And then of course, the transfer portal and everything else. I think Alabama is the biggest villain in all of college football and has been since Nick Saban got there. Now, granted, we've kind of embraced that villain role. I know we have. I mean, we show up, we do joyless murder ball, and then we go home and we wish you on your merry way. And that's kind of how it was for almost 20 years. And even before that, when Bear Bryant was there, they were doing the same thing. It was the Alabama way. So people just think Alabama football started when Nick Saban got there and, started really messing the flow and state of college football up in 2008, his second year. Gene Stallings won a natty. You had Bear Bryant running it for years. And what he did, we changed the way because, the USC game, the famous USC game with OJ Simpson, Bear Bryant was like, okay, I'm going to change what I do and do that and then dominate for a long period of time as well. So I think if we're talking villains, it's got to be us. And then the only other one I could possibly think of where I'm like, okay, maybe this makes sense was Hugh Freeze because he beat Bama twice and cheated to do it at Ole Miss twice, and then had to come to Auburn, and then of course Saban's last Iron Bowl is 4th and 31.
How many times, like, would you hear, like, Alabama's biggest competitions is themselves sometimes? If they don't make mistakes, if they do what they're supposed to do, then they'll win. But you're right. I mean, they're the Empire in Star Wars, right?
Mhm.
Like, they're the big bad Alabama. There's a reason, like you said, like people have signs that say we want Bama. That doesn't work with
Yeah.
it doesn't work with Georgia. It doesn't work with Oregon. It doesn't work with Ohio State. Even it seems to only work with Bama. And that's because they're the mountaintop, and that's often, vilified the way that the Yankees are, the way that the Lakers are, the way that Duke is in college basketball. So I love that pick. And now it's time for my last one, and we're going to close this out. All I have is head coach, and you've left me really with one choice, and you mentioned him just a few seconds ago. I'm going to go with Gene Stallings as my head coach. He's a beloved figure still at Alabama. We were lucky enough to talk to Gene Stallings right before the Rose Bowl just a few months ago, and he's still doing great. And he was a really fun guy to watch. Just a pure old school football guy, right? Like cut from the cloth of grizzled football coach like Bear Bryant. Obviously, he I don't know. I just love hearing the guy talk. I could listen to him for hours. And those teams that he coached, including the '92 team that won the national championship, went undefeated and obviously upset Miami in the Sugar Bowl and to win it all. I mean, they were just hard-nosed, defensive, run-first teams that Alabama fans love. And you contrast that, obviously, with what we saw last year in terms of the lack of a run game and why everybody says Alabama runs the ball. They obviously did that under Saban. They did that under Francione. They did that under DeBose, but they obviously did it with guys like Derek Lassick under Gene Stallings, and he really carried that tradition on, set a tone for future coaches and generations, and he's just awesome. It's Gene Stallings. What else is there to say about him? Okay, that's it. The draft is over. Let's recap real quick, and the three of us can vote and see who decided who won, and then we'll ask the audience, obviously. So first, Matt, you had the first pick. For head coach, you went Nick Saban rather quickly. Said his name rather fast. For assistant coach, Kirby Smart. For quarterback, Bryce Young. Offensive player, Derrick Henry. Defensive player, Minkah Fitzpatrick. Game, Clemson national title in 2016. Play, Gravedigger. Villain, Auburn. Tradition, Walk of Champions. Song, Thunderstruck. Game you want back, Auburn 2010, the Cam Newton game. That's a good list. Cruz, head coach, Bear Bryant. Assistant coach, Steve Sarkisian. Quarterback, Mac Jones. Offensive player, Julio Jones. Defensive player, Will Anderson Jr. Game, SEC Championship 2012 against Georgia. Play, 2nd and 26. Villain, Alabama. Tradition, Dixieland Delight. Song, Rammer Jammer, you cheated. Game you want back, Kick 6. And then my list, head coach, Gene Stallings. Assistant, Lane Kiffin. Quarterback, Tua. Offensive player, Devontae Smith. Defensive player, Derek Thomas. Game, Notre Dame national title in 2013. Play, George Teague runs down Miami. Villain, Dabo Swinney. Tradition, Victory Cigars. Song, Yeah, Alabama. Game I want back like an insane person. LSU 2005. Who won? Cruz, who won this?
God, reading everything back, Matt has a really good list. He really does. He's got, what's funny though? His list is top heavy. Bottom half.
That's probably fair.
Yeah, you're a little top heavy on there. I feel like, me personally, I feel like I'm bottom heavy on this one. I feel like I got a lot of like the fan favorites out of there, and then but yeah, I mean, obviously, your first couple ones with Nick Saban, Kirby Smart, and Derrick Henry. I mean, those are some heavy hitters.
You don't miss on those if you got a shot.
Matt, do you think when you got the first pick, you won the draft?
I think that luck plays a role in everything that we do. And I think the gods smiled on me today, and I'm grateful for it.
We'll see what the fans say. You guys tell us who won this draft. Was it me? Was it Cruz? Was it Matt? Let us know in the comments, please, and share your picks for all of these categories too. And you don't even have to draft. He's Matt Scalici. He's Beat Everyone producer. Find his stuff out there on Twitter too. For the Win podcast, I want to plug. He's Cruz Oxenreider. Follow him at the Real Cruz Ox. Cruz, we appreciate you, man. Let's do it again.
Can't wait. Roll Tide.
All right. Thank you, Matt. And everybody out there, send us your picks. And we appreciate you watching. Appreciate you listening. We'll see you next time.